Hello everyone, me being the brilliant YouTuber that I am, managed to not record my audio. Or my personal audio for me. So the game audio is fine. There's no narration behind this battle. I did narrate the entire battle, as you will see by my video on the facecam. But you guys are going to get my immediately after the battle thoughts as we go through this battle. And I'm just going to go through it with you guys. And so we have the live face cam, which is not going to line up with my words at all, and we have the post narration. So we are doing this battle as many ways as we possibly can, but welcome to week 1 of the TBL. As always, I am Goldoa Dragon, your coach of the New York Empoleon, and we are just going to let this speak for itself. So as we see, he brings Latias, Tornadus, Sylveon, Gorbis, Flygon, and Greninja. Now, I'm sitting there like, what do I want to lead with? How do I want to play this game? He doesn't have the Heatran, so he has no chance to get Stealth Rocks up. Obviously, he has both his possible Defoggers in the Flygon and the Latios. And so I'm sitting there like, okay, I just want to get my Rocks up. Calcs are so much easier with my Rocks up, and he doesn't have the Heatran to threaten my Skarmory out turn 1. So let's lead Skarm, and let's go from there. And I actually didn't say, guys, I'm playing GastlyGengar, Dylan, the coach of the C-137 Hoopas here in week 1 of the TBL. If you want to see any of the TBL information, you can see it all in the description below, where I'll have a link to the fan doc for that. So Gorbis is something I was not expecting him to bring at all. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, well, he's got this out here. What's he going to do to me? He can Shell Smash, he can Baton Pass. Whatever he wants to do, he can do. But I'm just going to set up my Rocks turn 1, because he can't KO me in 1 turn, because I've got Sturdy. And if he does Shell Smash, I just Whirlwind, and I don't have to worry about it. And so I'm like, okay, let me get my Rocks up. And he's got his Gorbis here. He does go for a Shell Smash, and I know he can't Baton Pass it, because that's illegal in the league. You can't Baton Pass speed. So he actually goes for a second Shell Smash, which I'm like, all right, fine, go for a second Shell Smash. I'm just going to Whirlwind you anyway. So you can see me saying in the screen that I'm like ready for this thing to go, and +3 Gorbis is pretty terrifying, or +4 Gorbis, excuse me, ×3 speed, ×3 special attack, ×3 physical attack, and so out comes the Flygon, and so I'm sitting there like, what does Flygon want to do to me? Is he special with like Flamethrower? Is he physical? If he's physical, he doesn't do much. I'm a calm nature, or a careful nature anyway, so even if he's special, he's not going to do that much. Let me just go for an Iron Head, see what he wants to do. He might U-turn. And he actually doesn't go for the U-turn, and he goes for the Fire Punch, which, so he does prep for the the Skarmory, but it doesn't do very much because it's a Skarmory. And so now we're just going to sit here in Iron Head, and he's doing, you know, it's a 4-hit KO right now with the Leftovers recovery, and so I'm saying to myself, you know, as long as he doesn't get the burn, I'm doing well, and there's nothing I really want to switch in. I could go into the Jellicent, predicting the Fire Punch again. He might be Scarfed. But I have no idea if he's Scarfed or if he's, he can switch up his move. And if he can switch up his move, my Jellicent is specially defensive. So Skarmory is really the thing I want to be in with right now. And I think he can't just like Earthquake, because I'm sitting in here with the Skarmory. So I was like, okay, is he going to U-turn now that he sees how much that does? He stays and he goes for the Fire Punch again. And I just went for another Iron Head, because why not? And that's a 3-hit KO for him. So he's in a weird spot now where he loses his Flygon if he stays in. And so I'm like, he's got to switch. This Flygon's important. He might be Scarfed. And if he's Scarfed, he outspeeds things. And so he's got to switch. He doesn't switch. So I go for the Roost, which seems like a ridiculous play, but it would have brought me back to full if he didn't hit me the third time. So we end up decently healthy, and I'm like, okay, well, at this point, I don't want to play with burns. I don't want to get burnt by his Fire Punches. I've gotten lucky that I haven't yet so far. So I decide to just finish this here, and if he stays in with his Flygon, he's going to go down to an Iron Head. And there's nothing else he's going to do. So even if he crits at this point, I do survive. The only thing that would keep him alive would be a burn. And so he swings with a Fire Punch. No burn, so we get the Iron Head off, and we are in good shape. Flygon's going to go down, and Skarmory gets the first kill of the season for your New York Empoleon. hazard coming in, getting up hazards, and just being a general hazard to the opposing team. So Flygon goes down, and now we've got the Skarmory here at okay health, moderate health, but admittedly nothing crazy. And he could go into a couple different things here, and the thing that scares me the most of him going into would be his Greninja, because he can get the Battle Bond up because he can OHKO me from the range I'm at. And so I'm like, okay, what's he going to go for? Is he going to go for an Ice Beam? I'm kind of expecting him to go for an Ice Beam. He obviously can't just go for a Scald because I do have the Jellicent. And so I don't want to go into Venusaur right now, because if he does go for the Ice Beam, then that's just going to do a ton because I'm not Mega Evolved yet. So I'm like, Jellicent's specially defensive. Let's go into the Jellicent. And I don't even think about the fact that, obviously, he goes for a Dark Pulse. It's Stab and Neutral. He's not Protean, so Ice Beam doesn't get Stab. So why would he not go for the Dark Pulse? But Jellicent eats that up, because it's a big, bulky Pringles man. And he's just like, nom, 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 and eats up the hit. So now I got Jellicent against Greninja, and I'm like, this is kind of a weird matchup, because I can't touch him. And he does a lot of damage to me. So how do I want to play this? And I am like, I could recover and just kind of stall, but that doesn't do anything for anybody. I could Will-O-Wisp and get residual damage on this thing, and I can take another one. So I'm just like, all right, let me go for that Will-O-Wisp. And he pops out with the Dark EMZ, and that's unfortunate, because Dark EMZ definitely kills from this range. It may even kill from close to full. It may not do 100%, but it would do like 80 to 90% easy, and it may do 100%. So Dark EMZ is obviously going to kill me when I'm sitting at like 52%. And down goes the Jellicent, and up goes the Battle Bond Greninja, and that's really scary. So we're seeing a lot of animations between the Dark EMZ and the Battle Bond animation, and I'm just like, how do I handle Greninja now? This thing got its speed boost up. It's ready to go. The only thing I have to handle it is my Gardevoir, which is Choice Scarf. So we go down to Nino. Nino, the Choice Scarf Gardevoir. And Nino is a nickname that I talk about in here, where it's based on a Fire Emblem character who has green hair. But Nino doesn't have green hair because it's shiny. So whoops! That's a little fail on my part. But so I'm looking at his team. He doesn't have Heatran. He doesn't have Gengar. He has no switch into Moonblast. And so he's got to switch this Greninja out. He's got to think that I'm Scarfed, because even if I'm not Scarfed, it's still not going to OHKO me with a Dark Pulse. And so he goes right back out into Gorbis. And now Gorbis, I think it was sashed based on the fact that it didn't White Herb last time. And my Trace goes off on the Gorbis because it didn't go off on the Greninja. And so we get off the Moonblast. And this does so much damage to Gorbis. And I'm just like, let's just click Moonblast again. I mean, really, why wouldn't I? I guess I think about it for a second, but I'm like, no. I just click Moonblast again. This Gorbis can't outspeed me because we know it's Shell Smash. Unless he was Choice Scarf Shell Smash, which would be the silliest thing I've ever seen. But we get the Moonblast off, and Gorbis goes down. So Gardevoir gets the kill here, and it's sitting here really, really threatening. He goes out into the Tornadus now, and at this point, I'm sitting there like, okay, how much do I do to a Tornadus? And it's not quite enough. I think Moonblast maxes out at 70%, 72% to a Tornadus. And I'm like, what can this thing do to me? And so now it's a weird situation, because if he goes for a Heat Wave, predicting a switch into my Skarmory, which is what I'm looking at, then Skarmory just goes down straight up. If he goes for a knockoff to get rid of my Scarf, I'm in a lot of trouble, because I don't have anything that's going to outspeed his Greninja. So I'm like, oh, if he's going to go for a knockoff, let me go into Lucario. Because if I go into Lucario, and he goes for a knockoff, I get +1. He can't knock off my Steelium Z, and I get this huge little boost where now I'm just a huge threat to his team. But then I was like, then he still outspeeds my Lucario, and Bullet Punch, I'm doing some Calyx here, and Bullet Punch doesn't KO from this range at +1 even. So I'm like, okay, then he just goes for the Heat Wave anyway. So I'm like, okay, that's not a great switch. Let's go with Skarmory. It's the safest switch. If it goes down, it goes down. At this point, his Flygon's already gone, and I just don't expect his Mega Latios to be carrying Defog. So I think it'll be okay to go out into Skarmory here. And even if he gets rid of it, I mean, I'm sort of bringing it in as death fodder anyway. So if he gets rid of it, he gets rid of it. And that is what it is. There's really no harm in losing it at this point. It's got the rocks up, and it took out a Flygon. Obviously, it does check Sylveon pretty well, but at this range of HP, it's not even that big a deal. And he goes for the Sludge Wave, and I'm like, oh, I was not expecting Sludge Wave at all. So Sludge Wave comes out, and I am so confused. I'm like, all right, how much does this do to a Gardevoir? What did I just dodge? Like, that bullet, that's not what I was predicting at all. Meanwhile, he gets the Leftovers recovery, so I know he's not Choice Scarfed. And so I know my Gardevoir outspeeds him now. So I'm like, okay, he could go for the Heat Wave here. My Venusaur's not Mega Evolved, so I can't just freely switch that in right now. So I'm just going to click Roost in case he does switch out for some reason, doesn't have the Heat Wave for some reason, goes for the Knockoff for some reason, whatever he does. He does go for the Heat Wave and takes out my Skarmory, which again, I brought it in as Death Fodder, so it's not a big deal that it went down here. And I see that he's just getting those Leftovers recoveries back, and I'm like, I don't really want him getting those Leftovers recovery back. And so now I'm in another tight spot. I've lost 2 of my walls, and I still have my strong attackers left. And so I do have a chance to really put dents in his team, but I don't want to lose anything. So now I'm like, okay, could go into Venusaur and get the Mega Evolve off, but if he goes for a Flying type attack, it's going to do a ton of damage. Hurricane almost OHKOs a Venusaur from full HP. And I can't really do that much back to him. I don't have the Hidden Power Ice or anything like that. I have Sludge Bomb, which will do something, but it's not enough to justify losing my Vegisaurus. So instead I could go into Nino, which outspeeds, and I'm like, okay, how much does a Sludge Wave actually do to a Gardevoir? And I'm looking at it, and it does about 70% from a max special attack Timid Tornadus. And I think he has some bulk investment because of the way that he has the Leftovers on it. And the other thing I'm thinking about is going into Lucario and saying, how much does a Heat Wave do to Lucario? Can I get a Swords Dance up? And Heat Wave has a chance to OHKO Lucario, so that's not a safe option. So it's really down to either Venusaur or Gardevoir at this point. And I don't think Venusaur is a great play. I really don't. I think that it's got to be Gardevoir. It really has to be no crit on the Sludge Wave. Thunderbolt also does have a chance to kill from this range, but it's not guaranteed. We've gotten rid of the Flygon, so there's nothing that is immune to Thunderbolt. Although Mega Latios just freely switches in to a Thunderbolt once I go for it, and he's confirmed that I'm Scarfed. So I go into Gardevoir, still not sure if I want to go for the Thunderbolt or if I want to go for the Moonblast. And I now have Prankster Destiny Bond, but that's obviously the wrong play. So I have full HP. He does not OHKO with a Sludge Wave. I know that for sure. So I can just freely go for an attack. And so I say, okay, well, if I go for the Moonblast and I get the special attack drop, then I'm in great shape. Because then he's only going to do about 50%. Either way, this Moonblast is definitely a 2-hit KO on a Tornadus. So I just go for it and get him down really, really low. He does go for the Sludge Wave. Now I'm like, please don't crit. Please don't poison. You know, let's just keep this Gardevoir okay. So he gets no hacks on the Fire Punch and no poison on the Sludge Wave. So I'm sitting there like, okay, let's just Moonblast again because he has nothing that wants to switch into this. And he could go into the Sylveon here. But at this point, he's in Bullet Punch range from Lucario, which is a safe switch in. And he's low enough that another attack from Gardevoir will kill. So, and he takes a ton of damage from Stealth Rocks. So he does just let it go down at this point. And Gardevoir sitting here, it's got that damage on it. And at this point, he's going to go out into Sylveon. And Jellicent would have been my obvious answer to Sylveon. But barring that, because Jellicent's dead, all I know is that I can't touch it with a Moonblast. And I need to get my Gardevoir out of here because it's still my answer to Greninja and Latios. And so I'm like, okay, well, I've got one wall left. Let's just get out with Gardevoir and go into my only remaining Pokemon that's designed to take a couple hits. And it's not Mega Evolved or anything like that. But Vegisaurus makes his debut, and Sylveon goes for the Hyper Voice. And at this, I'm looking at that like, it's a decent amount of damage from a Hyper Voice. And that is probably Choice Specs Sylveon based on that amount of damage. So I'm like, oh, so he's probably not going to be able to go for a Psyshock right here on my Venusaur. That's great. He's got Latios, he's got Greninja, and he's got Sylveon left, so nothing wants to take a Sludge Bomb. So let me just get my Mega off, and let me go for a Sludge Bomb here, because he probably is Specs. I'm expecting him to be Specs at this point, and he's showing me Hyper Voice. So I'm happy to just go for the Mega, which of course in this league you have to Mega Evolve first turn if you do have a Mega Pokemon on the field. And so I have to Mega Evolve if I want to stay in. So I Mega Evolve, and I'm just like, what is he going to do? So HP Ground obviously going to do nothing to the rest of his team. He didn't bring the Heatran, which that was 4, and the Gengar, which that was 4. But Sludge Bomb's going to do a chunk, and Latios has not yet Mega Evolved, so it's going to take Stealth Rocks. I get my Mega. It's going to take a huge Sludge Bomb from, you know, a little bit of special attack investment, Venusaur. And at this point, I'm going to see how much this does, and then I'm going to make an assessment like, okay, do I think I can take a Psychic? And so I look at the Sludge Bomb damage, and probably not. That's offensive Latios. So offensive Latios is here, and I'm like, oh god, Venusaur is so vital to keeping that Sylveon in check. It can take a Psyshock from this range, so I have to keep it healthy. Psyshock does about 67% max, and so we're looking at 1 Psyshock that I can take, and so I have to keep this thing healthy. Obviously, Lucario is another option for a Sylveon, but I really don't want to bring it in on a Choice Spec Sylveon. That's just not a great option. So then I'm sitting here like, okay, Latias has the eject button. I can go into Latias and use the eject button to get a safe switch into Gardevoir as he attacks me. He's got to go for a Psychic type attack. He can't go for a Dragon attack. And even if he does go for a Dragon attack, Latias goes down, and then I just go get a safe switch into Gardevoir anyway. So let me just go into Latias, use my eject button to get the safe switch into Gardevoir here. Not exactly how I was expecting to use this, but it works. And now he's in a weird spot where he can't take a Moonblast. And so I could just switch right into Gardevoir and go for Moonblast. Now, what I'm talking about here, what I'm deciding is, do I want to go into Lucario? Does a Bullet Punch Oko? Because I know bringing in Gardevoir draws in the Sylveon. And I don't really want to do that. And so I I don't really like the Sylveon switching in because it can obviously take a Moonblast and probably 2 of them from the range it's at. And so I'm debating it, but at the end of the day, the best play is going to be bringing in the Gardevoir and threatening this thing out. Because Lucario, while it can survive a Psychic at this, like from full health, even a modest max special attack Psychic from a Latios does not Oko Lucario. At +2, a Bullet Punch only does about 40 to 50%, so I still don't get the KO on this thing. Obviously, if he goes for it and I just go for Ice Punch, that's a big deal, but it was really not worth bringing Lucario here. Lucario still checks the Sylveon super well, and that Bullet Punch on the Greninja may come in handy later, especially if I'm at full health and can take an extra hit, because then I can go for the Steelium Z, or I can go for a close combat on the Greninja. So I want that Lucario at full health. And so I debate the Lucario, but I think the best play is still going to be going to Gardevoir. As I'm rewatching this, I still think the best play is to go into Gardevoir here. And so now the Gardevoir's in here, and he has a choice to make. He can either go out into Sylveon or let this thing die. I don't expect him to let this thing die, but at the same time, I think the best play is still Moonblast. I need damage on that Sylveon. I could double into the Lucario, which I briefly think about, but I look at it and I'm like, there's no way that I can just hard switch into Lucario here. If he does stay in to let this thing die and gets a huge hit on Lucario, I'm in real trouble. So this will be more Stealth Rocks for the Sylveon, which is super exciting. It'll be a huge Moonblast on the Sylveon, and the special attack drop comes out, and at this point I'm like, oh, that I feel kind of bad about. He's going to get no hacks all game, and meanwhile I get that special attack drop. So I could go into Venusaur here. I obviously don't want to stay in with Gardevoir. Gardevoir handles the rest of his team once the Sylveon's out of the way. And so I'm like, I could go into Venusaur, but I think he's going to Psyshock because he Hyper Voiced last time and went into Venusaur. So let me go into the Latias and eat up that Psyshock, which is exactly what he does. And even if he went for the Hyper Voice, Latias goes down, I just switch out into Lucario and go for a Bullet Punch, so that wasn't a big deal. And now I'm sitting here with like, okay, Latias is faster than Sylveon, and Sylveon's, I'm pretty sure, specs into Psyshock, which it can't touch me. But both of his other 2 Pokemon will either Speed Tie or Outspeed my Latias. So what if I went for a Tailwind here? This is not how I expected to use Tailwind, but what if I went for a Tailwind here to make sure I outspeed whatever comes in? If he's not Scarfed, or if he's not Specs, excuse me, and he does switch up his move, then I can freely just go into Lucario at that point. and use the Tailwind. And if he does decide to switch out because he's spec'd into Psyshock, then I have a Tailwind and I outspeed whatever comes in. So there's no way he's expecting me to go for a Tailwind here. And so he goes out into Latios, and Latios gets hit by the Stealth Rocks, which does just a little bit more damage. That damage is not relevant. The Draco Meteor from a Latios is going to do it almost one-hit KOs a Mega Latios without any special attack investment. So at this point, I'm just like, okay, let me just click Draco. I outspeed you. And so the Draco Meteor comes off. It connects, thank God, and down goes the Latios. So we are obviously now at -2, and he can freely switch back into his Sylveon. And I'm now in a pretty interesting spot where he knows that I'm at -2, and he's got a Sylveon that can come right back in. And I don't know what move it's going to go for. It could go for Psyshock, and it can go for Hyper Voice. And if it goes for a Psyshock, obviously Venusaur is the right play. If it goes for a Hyper Voice, obviously Venusaur is the right play. If it goes for a Psyshock, then staying in is actually the right play, even though I'm not going to be able to touch it because I'm at -2. I do have Surf. I can go for it if I want to and just get a little bit more damage off on this thing before going out into the Gardevoir, where Moonblast would then pick up the last couple of KOs. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I have Healing Wish. And I can totally Healing Wish into the Gardevoir. That damage that the Tornadus did to it is going to be completely negated. And I can freely get that Healing Wish off and just happily have a Gardevoir at full health and get a safe switch into it. This Latios isn't threatening him anymore at -2. And so he's sitting here like, he's going to take me out. I don't know what move he's going to go for. Let me see what move he goes for, because I'm still assuming he's Specs. And let me see what move he's going to go for, and I can just Healing Wish and freely get that switch into Gardevoir and be at full health. So then he can't KO me with... I don't think he can one-hit KO me with Hyper Voice from that range. So let me just go for that. I mean, yeah, Latios is still really healthy and a big threat, but it doesn't do anything to Greninja anyway. So let's see what he goes for. And he goes for the Psyshock. And at this point, I'm like, all right, can't go into Venusaur. Let's just go into Gardevoir and get that Healing Wish up. And I could go for a Psyshock, but that's, in my opinion, a terrible play because his Greninja obviously doesn't get hit by that at all. And so I'm like, I really, really hope from this range that the Moonblast will kill. And I'm not sure it will, but I know I can take one Psyshock for sure. So I'm not worried about it, but I'd rather not take the damage. And so Moonblast comes out, it goes off into the Sylveon, and it does get a high roll here and take out the Sylveon. So we are looking at a Choice Scarf Gardevoir against his Greninja, and the reason that it was big that I got that off as well is if this thing has Water Shuriken on it, then it's going to take a bunch more hits of Water Shuriken in order to get the KO, as opposed to just a couple from where I was at before. So I can just freely Moonblast. He doesn't have the Water Shuriken, or just doesn't believe it'll kill, and I can take out the Greninja. And guys, your New York Empoleons win Week 1 of Season 2 of the TBL. And get excited, guys, because this team is a threat in the league. I'm really pumped about the future of this team and where it's going to go from here. I'm so excited. I don't know what the future weeks hold, but I'm really, really excited for what the season is going to look like moving forward. So great game to you, Dylan, and the C-137 Hoopas. Good luck with the rest of the league. I will see you again in Week 9. But to everyone else who's coming, watch out. I'm going to be running some really fun sets, and I'm going to be excited to move on with this league. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I apologize for the fact that I had to post-commentate a live commentated battle, but that has already been fixed for next week, so don't worry about it. And I will see you guys in a few days with a new series, and next week with the second week of the TBL, where we will be taking on the South County Scolopedes and Coach Soul. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you next time.